Welcome, my name is Wasting Sanity, and this is my review of Endless Space Emperor Edition. Endless Space is a turn-based 4X strategy game, covering the space colonization age of the Endless Universe, where you can control every aspect of your civilization as you strive for galactic dominion. It is true that Endless Space has been out for quite some time, but I decided to take advantage of the Steam sale to check out this game. It has so many positive reviews, so let's take a look to see what I found. Endless Space is your standard 4X game. There are settings to adjust the map, player count, etc. I was pleased to discover that there was an option in the game settings to scroll in and out with the sidebar. This is due to the fact that I do not have a mouse wheel, the pains of using a certain type of trackball to game. Micromanage your nation as you struggle to keep your enemy away from your doorstep. What species did you start out with? This is where the replayability comes in. Each species is a little bit different. For example, one race reveals the entire map while another allows the player to colonize any planet without research. The race does receive a 25% penalty until the proper research is completed. While managing the empire, the player will notice there's a rather appealing display for planets. Each planet can have a certain production: food, money, research, or labor. Most upgrades that are built impact the entire solar system. This is a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. On one side of the coin, this streamlines the game for the player. On the other side of the coin, the player has to dedicate systems to a certain production in order to get the best results. There are extensive tech trees for the player to research. Each species has its own tree. But don't get too excited. There are only a few differences to the tree for each race. There are 6 sizes of ship available, from small to huge. The player is able to customize their ship for mass production. This is where the player discovers that all the species have exactly the same weapons. Every single item you could put on your ship is the same. There is no difference. No unique alien weapon that acts differently but has the same amount of damage as another weapon. The tech is almost completely identical apart from a few special areas for each species that affect the entire empire, not ships. Combat is rather interesting. It plays itself like a cutscene from a movie that the player can influence. There are 5 phases in total: arrival, long range, medium range, melee, and report. It is quite different and enjoyable until you realize it's exactly the same thing every time. The attacker warps in behind the enemy every time, and the attacker slowly gains on the defender. They trade volleys. The only thing that really changes is the background. I never once had 2 fleets in any other position. This part of the game becomes tedious rather quickly. Thankfully, you can automatically resolve the combat. There is a diplomacy window, but it feels like every other game out there that is 4X. This is a turn-based game. When capturing enemy systems, the player will want to use bombs, fighters, bombers, and soldiers. Once researched, the bombs can be used to wear down the population, destroy enemy positions, civilian targets, and the soldiers can be used to secure the system. There is no cutscene for this combat. There is another way to capture the system with less casualties: soldiers lost. After bombing the system back to the 20th century, the player can wait for a certain amount of turns indicated on the system itself. Then the system thinks they are better off being part of your empire and join. But this typically takes about 7 turns. Upon reaching mid to late game, things seem to swing your way. Conquering planets, the enemy ships don't hurt quite like they used to, and the player's ships don't have a lot of defense points allocated. That is when the player might realize that there are game-breaking bugs, where the AI player would send hordes of ships at the player. How can the enemy ships hurt you when they have no weapons? No fighters or bombers, not even siege weapons. Purely a defensive medium ship, and in some cases, a massive ship. All defenses, no guns at all. Only about 25% of the fleet could shoot at the player, and they are light ships. But apparently a lot of the players didn't notice or simply didn't care that it happened. Even with strong flaws that are very apparent, the game still manages to hold onto that just one more turn feeling? Well, when you didn't run into or notice the massive bug, because there is a landslide of positive reviews on Steam. I purchased this title expecting a pretty darn good game. Instead, I was left with a game that was okay and then it broke. That is why I'm giving Endless Space a 4.0. Once that part of the game is fixed, I would say it would fall into more of a 6.0. The game can be enjoyable, but it becomes repetitive and boring. If only the ships would do more than fly in a straight line, firing broadsides at one another like they are old galleons off the coast of Spain. My name is Wasting Sanity. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. And as always, I want to thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it.